Hello everyone, welcome to yet another exciting video by Simplilearn. Today we are going to jump into the confusing world of quantitative analysis. We'll explore what quantitative data analysis is, how it works, and a few most popular quantitative analysis models. We'll go through all these details using a real life example. So without any further ado, let's get started with that. This is Alex. He is a young engineer who had just launched a new automobile business venture. Since his startup is new, the amount of production and manufacturing at his inventory is comparatively lower. The amount of human resources is also limited. Hence, Alex takes all important decisions about business finance, investments, and new project ideas all by himself. All these important decisions are driven by following recent market trends. Alex looks into the details of current business advancement that can benefit the company and follows his gut to proceed with them. This decision making strategy is also known as qualitative analysis. Qualitative analysis uses subjective judgment based on soft or non quantifiable data. Recently, Alex made a decision to introduce a new luxury car despite the fact that his company is still in its early stages. This is a complete emotion driven decision that can even lead to bankruptcy. Nowadays, if people are looking to buy a luxury car, they will directly go to the established brands such as Mercedes, Tesla, or Ferrari. Why would they choose a brand which is new to the automobile industry and that does not have any hype in the industry? This makes sense to you all, right? And because of this complete subjective decision, Alex went through a substantial loss. However, as the production was comparatively lower, Alex decided to take steps to prevent any further loss. He decided to connect with an expert business intelligence consultant. Meet Victor. He is an experienced business intelligence consultant. He has worked on multiple business ventures to improve management and financial strategies. Considering Victor's experience, Alex requested Victor to assist him in streamlining all fronts of his business decisions. Victor held a meeting to understand problems with Alex's decision making process. He understood that all the decisions made by Alex were completely emotion driven and subjective. Victor began explaining to Alex where his decisions went wrong and how he could have prevented that substantial loss by conducting a rigorous quantitative analysis. He highlighted to Alex how a study of previous such ventures could have prevented this decision to introduce a new luxury car. Since Alex was inexperienced with this business analysis process and its usage, he began questioning Victor about quantitative analysis or how it would help him enhance his decision making process. Alex first asked Victor what quantitative analysis is. Victor started explaining Alex about quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis is a technique that uses mathematical and statistical modeling, measurement, and thorough research to understand patterns in an activity to make future predictions or decisions. This process begins with thorough research. First, you'll have to gather data for the topic that you are trying to make predictions about. For instance, if you are making a decision about investing in a particular stock, then first you'll have to gather the data of people who have invested in that stock. You'll hold an online survey or gather data resources from consultancy firms. If the data is in the linguistic format, you'll convert it into string of numbers. In the next phase, numerical data will go through computer analysis. Computers use advanced statistical and mathematical sciences to make accurate predictions. The predominant area of investment is technology here. The end result, generated through this process, is entirely objective and virtually immune to typical pitfalls of human judgment. The main reason why quantitative analysis has become so widespread in recent times is that the amount of information we have these days is enormous. We live in an era of globalization and digitalization where new information is generated every second at a rapidly increasing rate, and it circulates all around the globe 24 by 7. This means the amount of historical records we have in databases spread across the world is huge, and because of this information explosion, it becomes increasingly difficult to separate useful information from the useless one. This information, that is useless one, is also known as noise. And extracting useful information with human resources and intelligence is not possible at all. We can relate it with the analogy that there are simply too many rocks to turn over one by one. And traditional statistical models are also broken now. That is why it is vital to challenge the conventional wisdom and work on pure mathematical and statistical modeling. Quantitative analysis exactly allows us to do that. Thus, moving forward, quantitative analysis holds a great deal of importance. After listening to this explanation, Alex became quite interested in this field of data analysis. He asked Victor how does quantitative analysis works and how he can implement it in his firm. Victor started explaining this to Alex with the help of an example. As mentioned earlier, the first step of this analytics process is doing thorough research. Let's say you want to assess customer satisfaction with Alex's newly launched luxury automobile. To perform this analysis, you'll have to gather data of luxury car owners across the globe. For that, you can use means such as online or offline survey. Once you gather all the data, the next phase will be making sure that collected data is in numeric format. If the said data is not completely in the numerical format, you'll have to make syntactical changes such that the meaning of data does not change. For instance, consider this sample data of a few car owners. The satisfied with service section of this data is entirely linguistic, which statistical models and most dominantly computers won't be able to understand. That is why we'll have to convert this section into numbers. We can do that by converting yes and no into numbers, that is 1 and 2. This conversion won't affect the meaning of data. However, it will reduce the complexity of parsing patterns from this provided sample. Next, when data is ready to be parsed and analyzed, we apply statistical modeling to anticipate the kind of outcome we want from the gathered data. The quantitative analysis is solely powered by statistical models and procedures. And basically, there are two branches of statistics that are widely used in quantitative analysis. The first one is descriptive statistics, and the second one is inferential statistics. In your research or analysis, you might only use descriptive statistics, or you might use mix of both depending on what you are trying to figure out. In other words, depending on your aim or objective of your research. So, what are descriptive and inferential statistics? Well, before I explain that, we need to take a quick detour to clarify some statistical lingo. You need to learn two important words to understand the difference between descriptive and inferential statistics. Those words are population and sample. Let's first discover the term population. In statistics, the population is the entire group of people or animals or organization or whatever you are interested in researching. For instance, consider the previous example of assessing satisfaction of luxury car owners. The population in this case would be the luxury car owners spread across the geography or globe. However, it's extremely unlikely that you are going to interview or survey every single luxury automobile owner in the whole world. That's practically impossible, right? You can get data of car owners for only a specific state or locality. In reality, you'll only gain access to a few hundred or maybe a few thousand owners using an online survey. The smaller group of accessible people whose data you actually collect is called your sample. That means, in the case of our service satisfaction example, the sample of 100 car owners or maybe 1000 would be the sample. So, to recap, the population is entire data, meaning a superset consisting of whole data, and the sample is subset, meaning some portion of that entire data. In other words, the population is a whole cake, and the sample is just a slice of that cake. Now, you might be wondering why this sample or population thing is important. Well, let me tell you the significance of both these terms by defining descriptive and inferential statistics. The branch descriptive statistics focuses on describing the sample, while inferential statistics aims to make predictions about the entire population based on the findings within the sample. In other words, we use one group of statistical methods, that is descriptive statistics, to investigate the slice of cake, and another group of methods, inferential statistics, to draw conclusion about the entire cake. Moving forward, we'll discover both these branches of quantitative analysis in detail. Let's start with descriptive statistics. Descriptive statistics serve a simple but critically important role in data analysis. The methods involved in this branch of statistics describe your dataset. In other words, they help you understand your sample. This mode of data analysis is completely concerned about the limited data you have. It is the beginning phase of any analysis which you will look into to visualize and understand your dataset. The different methods involved in descriptive statistics are as follows. The first one is mean, then we have mode and median. Next are standard deviation and skewness. We'll look into each one of them one by one. The first one is mean. This is simply the mathematical average of a range of numbers. Nothing too complicated here. Next we have is mode. This is simply the most commonly repeated number in the data field. Following this, we have median. This is the midpoint of the range of numbers when the numbers are all arranged in an order. If the number of rows in data sample is odd, then the median is right in the middle of the set. If the data set consists even number of rows, the median will be the number between two middle numbers. Fourth statistical method we have is standard deviation. This method indicates how dispersed a range of numbers is. In other words, how close all the data points of dataset are to the mean or average. In the cases where all data points are closer to the mean, will have low standard deviation value. Conversely, in cases where numbers are widely spread from the mean, will have high standard deviation. Lastly, we have skewness. As the name suggests itself, the skewness indicates how symmetrical a range of numbers is. In other words, do they tend to cluster into a smooth curvy shape in the middle of graph? This curve that we are talking about is also known as normal or parametric distribution. If the lobe of the graph tends to the left or right side, then that will be considered as non-parametric or non-normal distribution. Okay, are you feeling bit confused now after listening to these bunch of definitions? Don't worry, we'll try to perceive them with the help of an practical example. On the left hand side, we have sample dataset. This dataset only contains two fields named as customer number and the age of customer who have purchased luxury car from Alex company. Now, on the right hand side, we'll compute descriptive statistics for this data. The first factor we are going to compute is mean. The mean is nothing but the sum of all data values available in the data set divided by number of data sample, which is 7 in this case. If we compute this equation, the result will be 60.4. That means the final value we'll have for this mean is 60.14. Next, we'll compute the median. Median is the middle element of given data points when they are arranged in order. Here, the number of data values we have is odd. Hence, the median will be the number of terms plus 1 by 2th term. This means the median in this sample will be 7 plus 1 by 2, which is fourth sample of our dataset, and that is 55. Third descriptive statistic method we have is mode. Mode is basically the most frequently occurring number in dataset. For example, if you look into our dataset, 70 has occurred twice, and that is the maximum number of reoccurrences. Hence, the mode value for this particular sample will be 70. Following this, we have standard deviation. This parameter incorporates the distribution of number from the mean. That means we'll have to calculate the distribution of each data point with respect to the mean here. The formula for this standard deviation is given as square root of sigma x minus x bar whole bracket square divided by n. The x here is the number of data set, x bar means mean, whereas n is number of sample or rows in our data set. If we do the computation, we'll get 8.3 as an output. This means the resultant plot for our graph won't converge more towards the mean. The final descriptive statistic parameter we have is skewness. The term skewness can be calculated by using the formula given on your screens. It is simply the summation of x minus x bar whole bracket cube divided by number of data values into cube of standard deviation. Or you can use simplified formula to calculate the skewness. I'm not going to do this computation here. It's little task for all of you guys. Calculate the skewness and drop your answers in the comment box below. Let's see how many of us can get this right. Moving ahead, let's visualize the details of our data using values that we have computed. Our graph for the dataset comprised of only 7 samples looks something like this. The mean for this graph is 60.14, which is represented using this dotted line. The median value is 55, which is precisely at the mid of our graph. And as we can clearly see, the mode value is 70 as its frequency is higher than any other data value. The standard deviation for this dataset is also 8.3. Due to that, the data values are relatively dispersed in this graph. And about skewness, we can say that this graph is not parametrically distributed since there is no lobe towards the mean. From this practical example, you can see that we have discovered the intricacies of our dataset using descriptive statistics parameters or methods. However, this is a very small dataset having only 7 records. So we can't really read into these statistics too much, but hopefully this example might help you understand how these statistics work in the real world. Also, keep in mind that this is not the complete list of all possible descriptive statistics methods. The method mentions here are only the most common ones. So at this point, you might be wondering, why do these descriptive parameters matter? Well, while all these descriptive statistics are fairly basic, they are important for a few reasons. Firstly, they help you get both micro and macro view of your data. They help you understand how overall data seems and how each parameter can affect the result. Secondly, they can help you spot the potential errors in the data. For example, if an average is way higher than you would expect or responses to a question are highly varied, then this can act as warning sign that you need to double check your data. And lastly, these descriptive statistics help you decide which inferential statistics method you can use as those methods depend on the shape of your data. We'll explore this in the upcoming section. So simply put, descriptive statistics are really important even though statistical methods are pretty basic. Many times beginners rush towards inferential statistics and then land up with some very flawed result. So we prefer you guys to start with ant steps and give attention to descriptive statistics. Moving ahead, we'll discuss inferential statistics. As I mentioned earlier, descriptive statistics are all about discovering your sample, whereas inferential statistics aim to make predictions about the entire population. What kind of predictions, you ask? Well, generally speaking, there are two types of common predictions inferential statistics make. First one is prediction about difference between two or more groups. For example, differences between weights of groups. And secondly, relationship between variables. For example, the relationship between the person's body weight and the number of hours a week person does a gym exercises. In more clearer words, inferential statistics, when done correctly, allow you to connect the dots and make predictions about what you would expect to see in the real world population based on what you have observed in your sample data. This means when you are working with inferential statistics, the composition of your sample is really important. If your data is not accurate, then your predictions won't work in real life endeavors. So make sure you do thorough descriptive analysis before getting into inferential statistics. There are many different statistical methods within the inferential statistical branch, and it would be impossible for us to discuss all of them in this session. Hence, we'll just have a look at few most commonly used inferential statistics method so that you can have a solid starting point. Firstly, we'll look at t-test statistical method. Then we'll discover ANOVA and correlation analysis. Finally, we'll delve into details of regression analysis. Let's begin with t-test. T-test compares the means of two groups of data to assess whether they are different to a statistically significant extent. In simpler words, this method tests if two groups have significantly different means, standard deviation, and skewness. For example, if you wish to compare the mean sugar levels of two groups of people, one that has had breakfast and the other one that is fasting. So, to assess the difference between these two groups, Simply looking at the mean is not enough to draw a conclusion. You need to assess whether the differences are statistically significant, and that's what t-test allows you to do. Next up is ANOVA. ANOVA stands for Analysis of Variables. This test is similar to the t-test except for the fact that ANOVA allows you to compare means between a multiple number of groups, most times more than two. Third statistical method we have is correlation. This type of statistical analysis assesses the relation between two variables. In other words, if one variable goes up, then what happens to the other variable? Does it go up or down or stay the same? This evaluation is achieved using correlation. For example, consider this plot of height and weight. With the increase in average height, we'll expect the increase in weight too, intuitively, but correlation allows us to measure that scientifically. Finally, we have regression analysis. This analysis is kind of similar to the correlation. In correlation, we are only interested in assessing the relationship between variables, but here in regression analysis, we go a step further to understand the cause and effect between variables. In other words, we assess if the movement in one variable can cause movement in another, or do they naturally move together due to some external factor. This evaluation is entirely achieved by regression. One more thing you should keep in mind here is that the correlation between two variables doesn't necessarily mean that one causes the other. To make this little more tangible, let's look at an example of correlation. Here is a scatter plot demonstrating the correlation or the relationship between income and employee happiness score. Intuitively, we definitely expect some sort of relation between these two variables, which is there in this scatter plot. In other words, if you observe closely, the result tends to cluster together in a diagonal line from bottom left to top right. The more tightly the results cluster together in a line or in any direction, the more correlated they are, and hence stronger the relationship between those two variables become. Irrespective of distribution of data, whether it is parametric or non-parametric, descriptive statistics anyhow draws the inference. That is why it is the most vital pillar of quantitative analysis. With this extensive explanation, Alex was able to understand how quantitative analysis works and how he can use the vast data at his disposal to make the best and profitable decisions. He also decided to hire a team of quantitative data analysts. If you are interested in exploring the field of business analytics and data management, Simplilearn's PGDM program in collaboration with Jackson can prove a magnificent asset for you. This immersive online course lasts for 24 months, which is typical post-graduation tenure. This immersive course content is delivered by Jackson, one of the top business school in India. That is why this course has been ranked among the top 100 management courses across the globe by QS Masters ranking. So, to enter into this vast world of data and business analysis, visit Simplilearn's website and get started. That's all we have for today. I wish you the best of luck for your MBA journey. Thank you so much for watching this video and stay tuned for more from Simplilearn.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.